agents are going to be communicating with the listing agent in most cases. And so we're going to know if there's multiple offers or not. And so, what multiple offer means in our market is typically it's going to be at or above list price. And so now, not only am I going to know that, every other agent that's thinking about offering, or their clients are thinking about offering on the property, is going to know that. So there are some things that can benefit the client in regards to terms,
Service members should get the most out of their VA benefits for home ownership. That's our belief, and that's why we're here. So whether you're looking to own your dream home, considering refinancing, or just exploring the VA home loan process, you've come to the right place. Welcome to Helping Heroes Become Homeowners. Welcome to the first episode of 2025 for Helping Heroes Become Homeowners. I'm your podcast host, Richard Sarey with Alliance Mortgage Group. Well, 2025 is here. We have a new administration that has started. We've got tax season right around the corner that might help us get some refund money for down payment assistance. So we have a lot to talk about today on where the real estate market's headed, where mortgage rates are currently and where they could be towards the end of the year. And kind of get a better idea of what we need to put into play to put our plan of action together if you're looking to buy this year. So today I have a returning guest, Chris Cox with Compass Real Estate. Thank you for coming back on the show today.
Absolutely. Always a pleasure, man. Anytime.
So kind of the things that are on the topic that I'm seeing is what the market looks like today. I've been reading and seeing and just noticing just from my pipeline that there's a lot more inventory coming on the market. Can you tell us a little bit about what that looks like in our area, Frisco, North Texas area?
Absolutely. So we are at our highest inventory level since 2019. Right now we've got, looking at the various areas in North Texas, but on average about 3.5 to 3.7 months of inventory available. Just to give you an idea, this weekend in 2022, there were, and we'll just talk Frisco because that's where we're at. We had 70 homes on the market. This weekend we'll have close to 600. So that gives you an idea of the difference in just 3 years and a 3-year time span. So it's a healthier market. I mean, we're getting closer to being kind of balanced. Obviously we want 6 months of inventory to be completely balanced, but 3.7 is, we're getting there. We're a lot closer than 0.5, which we were a few years ago. So
why do you think that mindset has changed from people who were sitting on the sidelines, maybe not wanting to put their house on the market last year? Why do you think that in the last 6 months, that mindset's changed a little bit?
I think they're a little nervous about losing some of the equity in their home. There was so much appreciation, especially in 21, 22. And then that appreciation is leveled off. I mean, we're still appreciating in our area, but it's more, 3 to 5% instead of 35%. So they're starting to see that either level off, or in some areas, we've even seen a little bit of decline. And so, this weekend I was doing an open house and the sellers paid $800,000 for the house in 2022. And the house was being sold for $800,000 in 2025. And so, I think, those folks that have a ton of equity are saying, okay, things may not change. Things may get worse. Things may not get drastically better. Why not, benefit from this equity now that we have?
And was that house price pretty right on? It wasn't maybe listed over?
It was.
Yeah.
It was exactly where it needed to be. Multiple offers the first weekend, or second weekend, excuse me. Nothing the first weekend. I think 3 offers the second weekend.
So at the end of the day, if we think that house is priced where it should be, getting with you as the listing agent, whoever the listing agent is not be too terribly aggressive on the list price? Or are some still starting out a little aggressive?
It's just, it's like any listing at any time of the year in our market, because we're still we're still technically in a seller's market. As long as the house is updated, priced effectively, it doesn't have to be a low ball price. It can be priced based on the comps of the neighborhood. It just you can't just slap a number on it though, like you could in 2022 and expect it to be sold in a weekend. You got to be a little bit more strategic with your pricing. And, it takes hours for me to price a house now. Whereas, back in 2022, it was, it wasn't as difficult. Just put it that way.
Right. So with the houses being, some of these houses that I've seen that have been on the market for 30, 40 days, and I'll notice a price reduction. Does that price reduction indicate that that market has maybe slowed down, or do we think they've just started at the wrong price?
I would say, and again, I don't have numbers right in front of me to base this on, but just rough guesstimate, I'd say 75% of the time it's mispriced the first time. Okay. And it just needs an adjustment to gain traffic. Because
I've seen just over
I'm sorry to interrupt, man. That's what we're dealing with right now is, there's a lot more inventory. And so there's a lot more competition out there. And so if you don't price it right the first time, people will just move on to the next house. Yeah.
And I don't think that the change in the comp for you guys has really had any effect on where that house gets priced either, does it?
No.
Yeah. I haven't seen really any come over outside of the normal 3.
Yeah,
right.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Now the impact that the market would have on a buyer for a house to be on the market a little longer than the norm has been years past, does that give the buyer an opportunity to maybe negotiate some seller concessions still?
Yes, we're seeing that quite a bit right now. I'd say most of 2024, if a house had set, let's just say more than 21 days, there is an opportunity for a seller concession. Now, what I found last year was you still couldn't, it's still not like you're going to be able to lowball that individual, because there's still comps that justify the price. But, a $10,000 seller concession for a 2-1 buy down is not out of the question. In fact, if a house has been sitting for, let's say, 21 to 30 days, there's a really good opportunity that you can gain some seller concessions for your client.
Yeah, that's still a topic of discussion when we're putting affordability payments together is trying to do the 10 buy down with anticipation that the market's going to improve down the road for them to capture a better rate on a refinance. Now, the impact that interest rates have on our military buyers when it comes to buying this year, the VA home loan still has the most competitive terms versus conventional and FHA. So in terms of affordability, I think the price points that we're seeing in our area is still much affordable if you're a veteran coming in and want to use your benefit. Yeah, so in terms of having that negotiating power of a seller concession to pick up some closing costs, you could be more creative with that buy down and be even further lower.
Absolutely. If I was talking to a room full of veterans right now that are kind of on the bench thinking about, hey, is it time to pull the trigger? I'd say absolutely yes, it's time to pull the trigger. Our market always heats up. Our J months are bad. Let's just be honest. Yeah. January it's January. It's right after the holidays. Nobody's wanting to list around the holidays for the most part. June, July, people have already made the decision with their family for the summer where they're going to go. Those tend to be kind of some slow months too. Right now, with the levels of inventory we have and the opportunities to provide for the seller to provide concessions because of the amount of inventory and the competition, I'd say if you're a veteran and you want to go the VA loan route, now is the time for sure.
Absolutely. So tell us a little bit about, and we talked before we got on. Now your company has a little bit, or has has come up with better technology for the buyer. Can you touch a little bit about what we talked about earlier on how that might help them, or what impact it may have for them?
Some of it's been around for Compass. Compass is still a fairly new company. We're growing like crazy. We just acquired At Properties and Christie's International, and so numbers wise, we're the number one brokerage in the country. So that allows us the opportunity to kind of advance with technology, and it's super exciting. We have kind of our own internal, I call it kind of an internal MLS where we can post properties, what we call private exclusive, it's just exclusive to Compass agents. And we have so many agents in the market that there's times when we can get property sold off market, which is a little bit, can be of benefit to the seller. It's not as stressful. It's more, you don't have to leave your house open for, 8 hours a day, 7 days a week. So that's something that we provide. And we've got a new technology database, whatever you want to call it. It's just in its inception, but it's essentially going to be a one-stop shop for buyers and sellers, to where we can put all of the houses that they're interested in one app. We can do a checklist for every step of the way, that they're every process step that they're going to have through the buying and selling process. And it becomes kind of like a click check, that basically step by step that they can just kind of click and check off all the processes. And it's just a really organized area. We can dump, seller's disclosure in there. We can dump all paperwork, inspection reports, everything. So it's one place where you don't have to create a folder with a bunch of, 50 emails in that you're going to lose down the road. Right. So yeah, we're really excited about that. But yeah, that's more to come on that. It's kind of in its infancy right now, but something exciting to look forward to.
Well, that's going to be, I think, very convenient for both sides for sure. Because
yes.
As you know, the faster you can get a loan done, the faster it closes, and the faster everybody gets their funds. So that should help speed up that process on that back end for you guys. Mm-hmm. Biggest mistakes for first-time buyers should avoid. What have you seen, if anything, here in the last handful of months that buyers have done that have either taken away their opportunity to buy, or they've had to put it now off for a few months? Have you seen anything in particular that they should avoid?
So there's a couple. Let me talk about this first. So with there being more inventory, obviously it's a lot more fun to look for houses and to search. And, so my biggest fear for first-time home buyers, and this is for all first-time home buyers, is they find a property that is more of their dream home and they overspend, then look for that first house that you're going to live in for 5 years. Because most of the time, the average is 7 years in a home. So don't overspend, be in a location where it looks like historically is going to appreciate. And there's certain factors you can look for, historically, that why these areas appreciate over other areas. But just don't get the googly eyes and, hey, we're going to go get our home, for the first time. Right. No, be strategic about it. Grow, use it as an asset, because a home can be an asset, but you have to, it's like investing in a stock. You've got to do your research and understand why that stock is a blue chip stock and it always gains money every year. So, that's the biggest thing, is having those conversations early and explaining to those first-time home buyers how important it is to be extremely intelligent about that first purchase.
Right. some of the things that I've seen home buyers, first-time home buyers mistakenly do is if they have money coming from a gift from a family member, which is becoming pretty common, which is fine from a lender perspective. It's not understanding completely how that gift process works. Some folks think a gift can be cash, which you can't source. So if you got 10 grand from grandfather that he gave you in cash and you want to use that for a down payment, you can't use that. It's non-sourceable. So from a gift perspective, if you're looking to do a gift, you want to have those gift funds either wired where we can document that transaction. We'll have to do a gift letter. But some folks who want to do gifts, who don't want to document their end, that's where some troubles lie ahead too. Because if you can't document it, you can't use it. So it's important that from a gift perspective, if you're going to go down that road to help with down payment or closing costs, that we document it properly and not do an early wire of funds until you talk to your lender. So we can put you on the right path on how to document that properly so we can use it.
Gotcha.
How about new buyers when they go through the process? So they come to you, they're pre-approved. They're not pre-qualified, they're pre-approved. So they've been vetted. We've looked at credit. We've looked at pay stubs. We've looked at their asset position. Everything is in an approved status. What's really the next step for them with you?
So I personally like to meet face to face. Before we go and look at homes, because first, buyers are super excited. They want to get out. They want to look. They want to attack the market, And so the first thing I'm going to do is going to sit down, and we usually have like coffee or lunch, and we're just going to talk through, what their wants, their needs, what they're looking for, location, proximity to work, budget's going to be big. I've got our title company, or not our title company, but a title company we have a partnership with, or we have kind of a calculator that's pretty accurate that we can give them a pretty good guesstimate of, if they put 3.5% down, it's FHA loan, here's what that's going to look like. And I know you're doing the same thing, Richard, with them, but it's, something that we can do as we're talking through this, budget wise, because a lot of people don't understand that, they've probably, this generation of home buyers have talked to their parents, and their parents are sitting on a 2.5% rate. And that's a big difference in a house payment versus today. And so the affordability factor, we want to talk through that. And, then it just gets down to nuts and bolts. We'll talk about the whole process, we'll talk, because I want them feeling comfortable with everything. So I'm going to set them up a home search on our Compass site. That's going to pull directly from MLS. After they've, obviously given me, the qualifications they want for the house, 3-bed, 2-bath, under 1,800 square feet, nice yard, sprinkler system, whatever they're saying. And then, they're going to interact with me on this search, so they can favorite certain properties. They can ask questions about properties, and that's going to be sent directly to me. So we're in kind of that constant communication of, hey, this one's great, Chris. This one's not. Here's why it's not. And then I can adjust, our search criteria based on that. And then we're going to pick out, a weekend. We're going to pick out a night. We're going to go view some homes. We're going to look at areas. And then, after that, I'm going to take them through that whole process of, all right, here's what happens when we're going to offer on a property. Here's how quickly you need to get earnest and option in. Here's when we're going to order an inspection. Here's when, basically the financing contingency is going to be over. Here's what we can expect after the appraisal comes back. It's just, we're going to walk through everything. So there's no, hopefully I've removed all those questions when things get stressful once the contract.
Sure.
When we're under contract, excuse me.
So when we're at that stage of putting in an offer, and we might be in a competitive offer. Are there any strategies that do we discuss with the buyer when we're putting that offer together, or are we amending that offer after they've all been reviewed? What's that process look like?
So it depends. We want to be strong the first attempt, especially when we know, because agents are going to be communicating with the listing agent in most cases. And so we're going to know if there's multiple offers or not. And so, what multiple offer means in our market is typically it's going to be at or above list price. And so now, not only am I going to know that, every other agent that's thinking about offering, or their clients are thinking about offering on the property, is going to know that. So there are some things that can benefit the client in regards to terms, a little bit. I've occasionally had to put more than 1% earnest money down on the contract. That shows that we're super serious about the house, and we're willing if it goes to a certain stage and we're past financing, we're willing to lose that money on this house. We want that house that bad. So that shows a little bit more desire for that home. Option period, you can always put more option money down, less days for option. That again shows desirability for that client. They want this house. They're going above and beyond what's the standard, which there's really no standard for option units. But usually in our market, it's going to be 5 to 7 days. It may be a 1 day. I've got referral partners that I can trust, that are inspectors that can get in there the next day. And that might be a determining factor, because if it's not price, then what is it next? It's got to be terms, right? And so those are just a few things, a few tricks to the trade, I guess, that, I've been able to use to help clients.
Does the lender aspect of their financing come into play if we know we can do a quick close, say 15 days?
Oh, absolutely. That's another thing too. If we have already talked, let's say you and I have a similar client and we've already talked, and you've told me that, hey, there's a slam dunk and we can get this sucker closed in 21 days. That the quicker the close, the less the 38 different buyer outs condensed. Yeah. And so that puts us in a better situation.
Because I've probably 80% of the time I'll get a phone call from the listing agent on the buyer's financing. They don't go into full detail, but they'll ask some general questions. But for the most part, I will get a phone call from that agent just to vet, I guess, if you want to vet the offer, maybe, so to speak.
Usually what I do, if it's multiple offers and we're down to, my client has decided on the top 3, I'm gonna call all 3 of those and vet each individual at that point. Yes.
Okay. What about off-market deals? What exactly is an off-market deal?
Basically anything that's not on the multiple listing services, like that's.
But is it like coming soon? It's just not on there yet, or is it just talk in the office of a house that?
Technically, that's considered off market because it's not active. So coming soon can be considered off market. I love doing coming soon before we actually list on MLS. That just the big fear out in the market for sellers right now is having too many days on market. And, a lot of savvy buyers, that's one of the first things they're going to look at is how many days on market is that. If it's X number of days, you're going to immediately shift gears and think you can get a deal on that house. That's just kind of the mindset, right? And so by doing coming soon, you're not accumulating days on market when you do that. So that's a benefit. Now, to doing coming soon, once it's in MLS, you got to go quick. You got to go live quick on coming soon. So there's also there's some brokerages that are larger that have kind of their internal, kind of like a Facebook system, kind of internal MLS where you can go like a private exclusive and just offer that property up to that individual brokerage side before you go live. So that's another way you can do it. As far as, I've seen agents that will literally write letters to every homeowner in a neighborhood because they know their client specifically wants that particular neighborhood. And they'll door knock and they'll, so
we've gotten letters in our neighborhood.
Yeah. So there's a lot of different ways to be off market, if you will, but for sale by owner, you don't see many of those anymore, but occasionally you'll see one, pop up. There's different websites that allow you to post for sale by owner.
But you're not necessarily from a buyer perspective going to get a better deal on an off market deal. In terms of, you're just
usually,
okay.
Well, let's think about the letters we get in the mail, Richard. I've responded before, and I'll always tell them $80,000, not $100,000 more than what my house is worth.
Right. Yeah.
I'm always going to try to highball that because if I wanted to move, I'd be on the market right now.
Right.
And so in most cases, I've seen agents get lucky, that have, gone through a neighborhood, knocked on doors and, hey, we're planning on listing in 2 months, but hey, we can go ahead and do it now. We can go ahead and sell the house now, and boom, it's happened. Now, did that client overpay? Well, maybe.
Yeah.
All they're going to base their data on is probably like a Zestimate on Zillow or, whatever the similar technology for realtor.com or what have you, homes.com. So,
okay. So you also do seller transactions. I know I sent you a customer that we had some challenges with getting their house ready to go, but can you give us some tips on what could make a smooth transaction for a seller on that side of the table?
It's all going to, a seller doesn't have to do anything to get their house ready for the market. But when you have that attitude, understand that we're going to have to accommodate by lowering that price significantly of what you could get on that house. So there's some things you don't have to remodel your house to get it ready for listing. Some of the things that we always say is, a fresh coat of paint is awesome. If you can put a fresh coat of paint on the house, it just looks cleaner. The pictures look better. It's a lot more easy to market with a fresh coat of paint and neutral paint, not dark brown, the old early 2000s like dark cream color. Bright is better. LED lights is another thing that I love asking clients to do, is to replace all their current bulbs with the same LED bulb,
right?
So that everything is uniform throughout the house, that you're not seeing dark spots, light spots. Everything is just bright. Cleaning windows. If you got nasty windows, it makes photos for the house look terrible. And so, those are just a few things that you can do and not have to completely remodel the house. Spend a couple grand and you're going to get that back when you list. So,
what about the seller's disclosure aspect of it? I mean, that stuff needs to be done in a timely manner too, right?
Yes, that's as soon as I lock in a listing, within 2 or 3 days, I'm sending the seller's disclosure, the T47 form, asking for the survey to make sure that the survey, is going to be accepted by title. If you've been in the game for a little while, you probably got a decent relationship with a title company or two, and they can look at a survey pretty quickly and tell you whether or not it's going to be accepted or not. So,
okay. So not too much from the seller side, but still we want that seller moving just as quickly as the buyer when it comes to paperwork.
Absolutely. Yeah. The quicker we can get it in, one of the worst things ever is, it's a hot property in a hot neighborhood in a hot area of town. And, we get early offers and we're still waiting on a seller's disclosure, which is, obviously part of the contract. So that's one of the worst things that can happen is not having that paperwork in hand. So,
okay. So with military veterans who are wanting to use their VA benefit, if there's a multiple offer situation, I know that what I do with my pre-approval letters is I'll have another letter behind it, kind of explaining in detail a little bit more about how that VA loan works to give the seller or the listing agent a sense of comfort, so to speak, that the seller's not going to be out more funds if they do accept the offer. If there's multiple offer situations, are there some things that you've heard in the past why that seller may not have accepted the VA offer, or was it just because they were putting nothing down?
Yeah. So it's, it all depends. It really does depend on the seller. I've had situations where sellers just wanted to help out a veteran, and they, as long as the terms and their net was going to be pretty close, they're fine. They don't worry about it. I mean, the one thing that has come up when I've been on the buyer's side of having a veteran client is, the inspection is a little bit more intensive and, they're to be able to close if there are some issues that come up in the inspection, those have to be corrected before we can close on the house. Whereas if it was a conventional loan, maybe that's not the scenario. We don't have to renegotiate repairs or anything like that. So that would be the only thing.
So from an inspection standpoint, though, it's not really an extra inspection. It's just the same inspection, just with additional items that may need to be repaired.
The repairs it's a little bit more, it's expected that some of those repairs be completed before closing.
Right.
Yeah.
Because with VA just wants to ensure for the veteran that it's safe, it's sound, and secure.
Yeah.
So,
which is a great thing.
If there's,
I wish, I think, I think it'd be great if everyone followed those same standards, but, that's been I guess as a seller's agent, if you've got an older house that that on the seller's disclosure, there's quite a few issues that are going to arise with that inspection, then, maybe you go with a cash in that situation versus a VA, but
right. So if you got, one example that I have right now is you've got a house that's built before 1978. Of course, you've got the lead-based paint to deal with on any kind of loan. But if you've got peeling of paint or wood rot or things like that, yes, that's going to have to be addressed and repaired regardless of what kind of financing, but especially for VA because it's lead-based paint back 478. So, but yeah, it does have a few extra things, but not necessarily always a deal killer.
No.
Because from a VA perspective, you can have it fixed on the VA's dime if you want to do a quick little renovation to it.
Yes.
And add that to your loan amount.
Yeah. And, and that's where you come in and I come in too, and educating the buyer on the situation that could arise, during the inspection and pointing things out as we're walking through the house. And, hey man, we're going to have a really strong offer here. I'm going to put you in a situation to win, but just understand that this could come up, this could arise.
Yeah.
And, if you want to still be the number one offer, you may have to be willing to do a few things that you weren't expecting.
Yep. So. And one thing that we'll do too is when I'm pre-qualifying someone for a purchase and it's using the VA, I will pad the approval a little bit without really letting everybody know until it becomes an issue, but padding the approval a little bit if we need to do a renovation of any repairs. Because if we need 10 grand, we just we get that bid, make sure that the contractor's VA approved. If not, we'll get them VA approved fairly quickly. And then we're going to make those repairs after close.
Yeah.
and then do a final inspection within the lender after funding, and VA is done and he still gets the house and then repairs it up to what the minimum property standards are for that loan. So I always do that when I'm getting a VA client approved, is pad that a little bit. So one of the things that we've worked not very long together, but long enough to create a relationship. What do you think makes a difference when you have the right lender and the right realtor working as a team when it comes to representing a buyer on their first time or their second purchase? How does that partnership help?
Well, for one, I appreciate you so much because you work realtor hours. There are definitely lenders out there that you cannot get in touch with on the weekend, or if you do, it's 4 hours later. And that's just not how this industry works. You've got to be responsive and call people back. It could be the difference in getting an offer accepted or not. If it's a 3-hour window in my business is a really, really long window, especially if it's an offer deadline scenario or something like that. And we've got to make a few adjustments, what have you. But, that's the main thing is you're very transparent. I think you're extremely good with clients and helping them understand the process. I love the videos that you do. I feel like that you could have been a high school teacher in a past life. Like I feel like you do a really good job explaining the process to both. I'm not a lender, so I'm asking you questions all the time as well. I think you do a great job on the realtor side of things as well, just through that explanation. So,
thank you.
It's one of those things that when you talked about dealing with the next buyer, the next house. Why is that relationship so important? It's so important because you've got to be able to trust your lender that they're going to be there quickly. They're going to respond quickly because, sometimes buyers get cold feet as well. Like they know it's the right thing to do. They know it's the time to do it. But if you wait 7 days to respond to a buyer, they may be renting their next apartment.
Right.
You got to respond quickly. So
I think it's important too. I mean, I'm biased here because this is what I do for a living, but I think working with whoever you work with a lender locally in your community goes a long way. Mm-hmm. And not to take anything away from a retail lender in another state, but when you do an online application with a lender that's not in your local community, I think that communication with the realtor they're working with becomes a little harder to communicate. I think having a community relationship with a realtor, with a lender, makes things a lot easier.
No doubt.
Just for everybody.
I can't say, that, I can't degrade anyone out there, but yes, it just, the local market, you're a phone call away. You're not a press 1 for, Alliance Mortgage, press 2 if your lenders,
your social
or his,
your social.
It's a direct phone call. It's your cell phone. With some of the national lenders, it's not. I'm not trying to downplay.
Well, no, you don't want to be transactional. You're wanting to be the lender for life. If they have whoever needs just someone for a phone call about something. I had a phone call the other day about their escrows being all messed up.
Yep.
So I had her send me the mortgage statement and the escrow summary and explain to her where the deficiency was. They gave her forced placed insurance that she didn't know. Mm-hmm. So that was the reason why her payment went up $500. So they accidentally put forced placed insurance on her escrow. So it was an easy fix. That relationship makes a little bit of a difference on helping somebody after the close, right. Not just a one transactional and then you don't hear from them ever again. So for me, that goes a long way.
I want it when I know you're the same way. I'm trying to build a relationship for the rest of their, the rest of their life. I get calls all the time, around tax season. Hey, can you run some comps for me in my neighborhood? So if I need to argue taxes, I've at least got some bullets in the gun to be able to do that. I want to be there to help for all the questions. I get some crazy ones, and sometimes it's bad timing and everything else, but I'm to build relationships. You have to do that. Sometimes it's not always going to be rainbows and unicorns as far as.
Absolutely. That's important. Relationship building is important in our business for sure.
Yes, no doubt.
All right. Our last topic, I know we're running out of time. But I want to talk a little bit real quick about some misconceptions about the VA loan that I've heard over the course of last year. I write down notes on every VA loan that I do and just kind of have a running tally. What I still hear occasionally is that the appraisals take too long and that the inspections are different than an appraisal. Mm-hmm. So when I say inspections, they discredit the inspection thinking they're going to have the same result on an appraisal. And it could be vice versa. So for example, I have a realtor that she sent me the inspection. There's a few things on there that could or could not be called out, did the appraisal, and none of it got called out. So we kind of got all worked up for nothing. Yeah. So when it comes to the appraisal aspect of it, when an appraiser accepts the order in the portal with VA, they have 10 days to deliver. Now, if they have to go out to an outlying area, call it a rural area, for example, they may need a few extra days, but they're held to a standard of 10 days to deliver. So typically that closing is still going to be within 20 to 25 days for a VA home loan. If you have an appraiser that takes the order and they go out the next day, you may have the appraisal on day 3. So it just varies. Mm-hmm. But as far as it taking longer than 30 or 45 days to get an appraisal, I've heard that before. The inspections was one. The other was the closing cost. Closing costs are still in some mindsets that the seller is going to pay all of the closing costs for the buyer because it's a VA home loan. With VA does have non-allowables, but if you don't exceed 1% of closing costs, then those non-allowables don't come into play. The buyer can still pay for can pay for the pest inspection. That was one myth that's always been out there, that the seller has to pay all the inspections for the veteran. That's not the case. They can pay for the pest inspection up front, and it's their cost now. But it's, when it comes to that myth, it gets a little bit frustrating because that's still out there. The loan has gotten much better from a technology standpoint too, that we can pull everything that we need right off the portal. Appraisers do have that reconsideration of value. If the house doesn't come in for value, we get that Tidewater alert. So we have 24 to 48 hours to get additional comps to the appraiser to try and get that property the list price. And if that property doesn't get the list price, then we can do a reconsideration of value at the SAR level and have it reviewed by the VA. So there's a lot of extra steps that we can do to try and get that value where it needs to be if it doesn't come in. And I haven't seen a whole lot of those even last year that were lower than purchase price, where we had to even do that. Is there anything out there that you may have heard differently at all last year? I know you don't do a whole lot of VA, but from your counterparts?
Excuse me, you addressed a vast majority of that. The issue, I'm glad you addressed the whole inspection issue, because that is kind of a misconception that the inspections are much more invasive, intense. Really, it's the appraisal that's what matters. It's right. Not necessarily inspection, but as a buyer's agent with a VA client, I want to try to get ahead of that. And so there's another relationship thing with us, right? I'll call and ask you and say, hey man, here's the inspection report. What do you think? Knowing that you deal with a lot of VA loans, what do you think I'm going to need to have addressed here to help my client, so that this is a smooth transaction from that point forward. So, that's always my suggestion is hopefully you've got a great lender that you can lean on in regards to that, to know the VA rules backwards and forwards. So,
and there's so many extra things within the guidelines that help the veteran get the loan approved. Because I've mentioned in an earlier podcast that it's really the duty of the underwriter to find every way to get that veteran approved, whether it be a manual underwrite, high residual income. There's a lot of different things through the guidelines with the VA that you can't get done with either conventional or FHA. So the higher approval rating for those types of loans is one of the benefits for the veteran, not only for the veteran, but getting that loan through for the seller. If they take a VA offer versus a conventional is kind of limited on what they can and can't do after the fact if something goes sideways.
Right.
On VA, we have a little more latitude if it goes sideways, with more options for the veteran. So one of the things that I really love about that loan is to try and get that veteran into the house. Last point, and then I'm going to let you go. Why would waiting to buy be a mistake right now?
Here's why waiting to buy would be a mistake. First of all, we are still projected over the year 2025 for home values, property values to still increase. Okay, so when property values are increasing, you have an asset, right? And so why, if it's a much more, and it's still a seller's market. On paper, it's a seller's market. Okay. But there is a lot of inventory right now. If you can potentially get a house for under value with concessions, why would you not do that right now? Okay. Yeah. There is no guarantee in March, April, May, our really, really hot months, that there's still going to be 3.5 to 4 months of inventory out there. And so if I can get into a home and instead of taking my rent money and putting in a trash can and lighting it up, because that's what you're doing when you're renting. And I know there's different scenarios and, obviously you have to be approved to do that, to buy a house, but, and I know there's different life situations. I get it. But if you can, if you're able, you're lighting $2,000 on fire every month because that money goes away. You're not making any money on that money every month if you're renting.
Right. And another example would be if you were putting your toes in the water last year and didn't want to because of rate or whatever the reason could have been, that house that you want today is 5% more.
Yes. Somewhere between 3 to 5% more.
And that means a little bit more down payment and a little bit more payment.
Yep.
So if you, like you said, if you got the budget and you've got your ducks in a row, you can get a good deal on a home and get some concessions.
Yeah. And, it goes from pre-existing, new homes. It's everything right now.
Yeah.
So it's, and my friend Richard here a lot of times he can beat the builder's lender. So.
We'll beat that builder every once in a while. Well, man, I appreciate you taking the time. Again, you've got great insight. You're great at what you do. From what I've seen working with you, you'll do whatever it takes to help that home buyer get into a house. And you'll drive wherever. Oh
my gosh. Yes. Had to get rid of the truck just because of it.
Had to get rid of the truck because of the mileage.
Got to have something with a little bit better gas mileage right now for sure.
So if folks want to get in touch with you to have a discussion about listing your home or maybe using you to go look at homes, how can they get in touch with you, Chris?
I'll give my cell phone out, 972-971-1331. And then, you can look me up on Compass, on our website. Also emails, I check emails 5 or 6 times a day. It's chris.cox@compass.com. Really easy to remember.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Well, one thing that I'm going to put on my on this podcast and on my social media, if you follow me, is we have a new VA app that has everything that you need to know about the VA home loan. There's videos on there. There's tax exemption calculators on there if you've got any kind of disability percentage on your VA, because you're going to get a discount on your property taxes. There's condo approval locations if you're looking to purchase a condo, what's approved and what's not approved. It's a very great resource for someone who may or may not know anything about the VA loan, especially for realtors. If you've got questions on what we're talking about today, all that's addressed on that app. So I'm going to put the link how to get that app to your phone to refer back at later times. And if you want to follow me, please subscribe to my YouTube at Richard Sarey Home Loans for more tips. All right, man. I appreciate you, brother. And Absolutely. We'll talk to you soon.
Yep. Sounds great.
If this episode has been beneficial, we'd love to hear from you. Please leave us a review on your favorite podcast platform. Also, for regular updates and tips, make sure to follow our social media channels, which you can find in the show notes. Until our next episode, keep making homeownership dreams come true.